Hey guys, Bowser here with Penny Stock Data Science. Going to be doing a video today on restricted shares, legend removal, all the stuff kind of related to that. Going to get a little bit into convertible debt and converting that, where shares are held, how legends are removed, things like that. Definitely seen it, come up a lot lately on the Discord servers, things like that when, shares are coming onto the market for various securities and, seems like a lot of people kind of have some confusion there and, how things operate, how long you need to wait for, a legend to be removed and, kind of various things related to that. So we're going to go over a few examples, look at some of the transfer agent websites, things like that. So, I mean, most of the time when it comes to the restricted shares, what you see is that they're purchased by, with Rule 144. That's kind of the most typical thing we see, things like Reg A or, doing an S1 for securities that are purchased, that costs a lot of money. Not all these OTC markets securities have that kind of money to do that. So Rule 144 is, that's kind of the most typical thing that we see. So, I already have some stuff pulled up, um, you know, to take a look at. So like ABIT, look, there's 4 billion restricted shares here. So we can take a look. I already pulled up. I think it was what was it? The disclosure statement that'll say where you know, all the shares are purchased from. Um, so yeah. I mean, you want to go to the disclosure statement just to see all the details about the shares in the quarterly and the annual reports. But we can see here. So we have some shares that are restricted and they come off of debt conversion. I mean, that's pretty much everything here. And I mean, the execution here is is 4A2. It's not the same thing as 144 at all, but all of these kind of restricted shares, they have a similar way of getting the legend removed when it comes to, wanting to take them from the transfer agent and deposit them to a broker. And then we had another example. I mean, there were a couple I pulled up. So we have like EXMT. They have 780 million shares that are restricted. Uh, when you look at their report, and you can see, so they have a lot of stuff for like debt conversion, and those are unrestricted. But we do have some other restricted shares that came here with like consulting agreements. I think there was one up here, another consulting agreement. So that's going to end up being kind of similar, where it's going to have to wait for a certain time period and have the legend removed. And another one, SRMX, where we have quite a few more restricted shares, something like 1 billion. And when you look here at the disclosure, we see a lot of 144 here. For services, restricted shares 144. We have some unrestricted ones, for Reg A that I mentioned before, but restricted shares 144. That's what we see a lot. But here's the thing. So you're wondering, okay, I'm trading a ticker or something like that. There's a lot of restricted shares. Like, when are these going to become available for trading? When are they going to hit the market? Because you have something where maybe the float is 1 billion shares, but there's 1 billion restricted shares too. Those come onto the market all at the same time. That's going to double the float, and that's you might see some negative price action there. So here's the thing. So biggest thing is that, let's say I buy 144 shares. You do a stock purchase agreement, maybe it's a consulting thing, whatever. Pay for the shares. The shares go to the transfer agent. And if you go to the OTC Markets website, you can see the service providers for transfer agent. So once the shares are held to the transfer agent, you need to try and get the legend removed. So like, I mean, I already clicked on one of these, but so, Securities Transfer Corporation, you'll see them pop up a lot. But here's all the stuff for, getting a legend removed for Rule 144. It's a lot of stuff. Instruction letter, legal opinion, a rep letter, stock power with medallion signature guarantee. That means you have to go to the bank, give proof of everything that you want, for why you want the medallion signature guarantee, which is really just a signature saying it's you. But it might take you a week after you go there just to get it done, and then it costs money to do all this stuff. But the biggest thing here is the legal opinion. That means you need to get a securities attorney to write you an opinion letter saying that it is okay for these shares to have the legend removed. And that's a big deal too, because okay, let's say you had your lawyer write something up, transfer agent says it's good, they remove the legend for you, you pay all this money to do this, and now you have to go find a broker dealer to deposit the shares. That's the next big hurdle. So there aren't that many broker dealers out there to take OTC securities. There, I mean, there are two or three. There's, Wilson Davis, there's uh, Alpine, there's Scottsdale, but they all have different rules. For some broker dealers, they might not take anything under that's a penny. They might take something only that's 1 penny or over. So maybe you deposit somewhere that will take something that's a penny or over, and you have something that's a penny. But once it goes sub penny, like there's nothing you can do. You can't sell it then. And if you go somewhere that'll take every kind of OT security, but they might want you to deposit a lot of shares. They might say, oh, we'll only take your shares if it's worth $500,000 or more. These are all things that happen. So a lot of times you have people who maybe buy shares, but then when it comes time to deposit them, they don't have any place to deposit. Which gets to my next point that I wanted to bring up. That okay, so what happens when you have, let's say you see restricted shares in the share structure? You're wondering, okay, like when are these going to come on the market? Then you need to go look at the disclosure. You need to go look at the history of the filings to see when they're issued and when they can actually get the legend removed. It's going to be a minimum 6 months. Could be anywhere up to 2 years, depending on whether the security is a shell, whether it was current when you bought the shares, whether there's a lot of different factors. But you also have stuff where, okay, maybe someone bought a lot of shares. Maybe they went to the transfer agent, had the legend removed, and then when they went to go deposit at a broker, they didn't have an account. They called up a broker, said, hey, I want to deposit. The broker said no. Maybe their attorney for the brokerage didn't agree with your attorney who wrote your opinion letter. So that's something where maybe you'll see the shares become unrestricted on the share structure, where they're not actually deposited anywhere. And that's something we've been seeing a lot lately, where tickers that either they're getting current now, maybe after the rule change, they started getting their filings up to date, and then all of a sudden, there's momentum in the ticker. It starts going over a penny. Okay, now there's more brokers where you can deposit shares, so maybe the legend's already removed, and then all of a sudden you see them get heavy when it gets over a penny. So that's something that happens. Another thing to bring up is that, okay, maybe someone had the legend removed on a block of shares, but they didn't actually deposit it somewhere. They just sold it to someone else. Maybe they made an off-market deal, and that happens too. So now the shares get transferred to someone else who they were sold to, and the legend's removed, so it looks like they're unrestricted, but you don't actually know when they're going to hit the market, or when they're going to get deposited somewhere, or stuff like that. You can take a look at the DTC share count and the share structure, but this is my opinion. I wouldn't depend on that to be extremely accurate, especially because a lot of these things aren't updated immediately in real time. They get updated overnight. Maybe the transfer agent updates it a few days later. It takes there's a lot of different things that can happen that would delay something like that. And another thing to mention, just when it goes back to the point of where you can remove a legend, have unrestricted shares to the transfer agent, and you could sell it to someone else. So yeah, you can sell it to another person. Maybe they have an account somewhere, so it'll be easier for them to deposit shares, or something like that. But there are also different, whether it's a broker dealer or something like that, who will who go and they buy shares from people who have made Rule 144 purchases. So that happens too. And in those cases, they're not paying the market value. Like if one of these places knows that, okay, this person bought shares, they have nowhere to deposit them, so it's virtually worthless to them right now. They're not going to offer you market value. They're offering like 20, maybe 25% of the market value. So if you see something where, okay, a block of restricted shares gets the legend removed, it's unrestricted, maybe you see the DTC share count go up, so now you know that they're deposited somewhere, you should be aware, like maybe some negative price action is going to come, because if someone bought that from someone else and they're only paying like 20% of what it's worth, they're going to dump it because then they're just going to, they're going to make money right away, regardless of how low the price goes. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And one last thing. This isn't really related to the legend removal. This is about convertible debt, because this is something that we see over and over and over, where it's some ticker looks heavy. We know that there's a debt note out there, or there's multiple debt notes, and you go into the Discord servers and you see people complaining, oh, it's getting heavy. The share count isn't getting updated. Blah 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 blah. Because what you need to know is, okay, first, anything that's DTC fast, or the security is DTC fast, the transfer agent DTC fast. Let's say there's people out there with debt notes and they already have their accounts set up, because they're in the business of buying debt notes. They're regularly converting and selling shares. If they convert shares, those can get put into their brokerage account, within minutes or hours. Same day, can sell it right then and there. And you wouldn't see the conversion hit the share structure because those don't get updated midday. They get updated, the next day. So transfer agent gets their whatever file that they send to OTC markets, next day gets updated. But the other thing is that sometimes you can see a conversion that's front loaded with a short sell. And this is a really big thing. I don't see anyone talking about this in any of the Discord servers or Twitter or whatever, which is a little surprising because of how common it can be, at least in my opinion. But let's say you're in the business of buying debt notes, converting them, and selling shares. You do this over and over. You know the flow of it. You call up your broker who you have a good relationship with because you're depositing tons and tons of shares there. You say, hey, converting this debt note, I have approximately this many shares I'm going to be sending over, but I want to sell them now. And the broker says, okay, well, you can short sell it. So what you'll end up seeing happen, at least in my opinion, is that they'll short sell whatever ticker. It could be sub penny, it could be a penny, whatever. Starts going down and down and down, and you don't see the share structure change. So you go into the Discord servers and it's like, oh well, it can't be dilution because nothing's being converted. But in reality, they're short selling because they're just going to convert the shares later and deliver them to the transfer agent within the whatever it is, T+2 or whatever, and use that to cover their short. So by the time you see the share structure change, it's 3 or 4 days later, and the stock's already down. So that's also something to keep in mind. But I think that's all I have for today. Please subscribe to the channel and look out for another video. Thanks.